What's going on, family? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about being a better vendor 101. How does being a vendor work when you've got a lot of responsibility on your shoulder? Multiple jobs, you've got unknown scopes of work and circumstances going into your line of work, dealing with variables, dealing with contingencies, dealing with personalities, and overall how to sell. How is it that you could be a better vendor? And it starts with some foundations. Number one, it comes down to money. You have to be good with money. I think the most important thing, the foundation that somebody can do as a vendor is take some one-on-one classes when it comes to budgeting for your personal books, budgeting for your business, and taking some one-on-ones and start getting a better idea of actually what do things cost and how do you advertise those costs for your line of work, for your scope of work. For example, I posted on TikTok. Well, actually, it went viral on TikTok, a couple thousand views. That's not viral, but for me, it's a lot of exposure. But I had a project at an 8-unit building in Brooklyn, where the common area vestibule, as soon as you walk in through the doors at this property, we have 14 light bulbs, hi-hat light bulbs that are in the ceiling, and 7 or 8 of them went out. And the building is not fond of spending the money necessary to replace the light bulbs, which makes sense. I get it. Every building is scraping every single dollar today, and the expected costs of the labor only are enough to weigh the feasibility of having a project like this done. It's like, on one hand, we have 7 bulbs that very well light the common area anyway. But, and again, it's all literally in one room. Like, I'm in this room, and let's say 4 of these 6 light bulbs go out. I would still have light. It's just not going to be as bright, or I may not have as much visibility. Same situation. So, we've had a contractor who said, $325 to come down there and change out 8 to 10 light bulbs. And, that was separate from the actual costs for the parts, which I was able to shop online in FEIT, the company, Fate. I don't know how to pronounce it, Fate or Fate. They had a sale going on where I got like 24 light bulbs for $100, and it was the right temperature, it was the right color, and I was doing my research and all that stuff. I don't know it verbatim, but it was the specific socket size and everything like that. So it was a win in terms of purchasing the materials, but having an idea of what it would be like to, let's say you're wrapping up the end of the day and this project is on your way out of the last job site, on your way home, or to your next job site, or whatever it is, and you could pop in for 15-20 minutes. The ladder is literally on site, the parts and materials are literally on site. All you have to do is just get the ladder out of the first floor door to the utility room, stand up on the ladder 8 to 10 times, move it around 8 to 10 times, pack up and go. Enjoying that expectation is something that we as managing agents do to help alleviate putting it all on a vendor, who basically all the vendors that we work with do have a difficult time in one way or another. Some of them are really good in some areas like pricing and building out scopes of work and getting clients an idea of what is necessary and what's the bare minimum, and options from there. What are the specific options that have to deal with this or that? For example, dealing with some of these buildings in Brooklyn where we're starting to have roof leaks. we'll have options for either, a full gut and full replacement of a roof, or we'll lay over existing, and then also with the option for laying over existing, you have different levels of material that can be used, and layers as well. So, and then also finishing touches like putting pavers on top or things like that. And like this, apart from also being a part of the competitive bid process, vendors sometimes do excellent sales processes by offering options within their own individual package. Now, separate from pricing, right? Separate from being a person who is very familiar with the scopes of work that you have to deal with in the field, being an expert in that field, and being able to basically map out the concerns of the client and get them on the even playing field that they need to be on in order to make decisions going forward. And how does a vendor get that done? Well, there has to be some groundwork. Again, it comes down to knowing your numbers. It comes down to knowing your clients, knowing your scope of work, knowing what you're capable of, and being good at those things. Just some foundations. It's stuff that we've been doing for decades, and the things that we want to teach going forward is get good at your numbers. Like, if your personal budget is a wreck, it's going to bleed over into your business. You can't be really good at your personal books and not be good at your business books. It doesn't. That's just not how life works. So you have to get good at the foundational stuff. Get the 101 courses. Get the how do I become a better budgeter? How do I become better with money? What is it that I need to know that I haven't known my whole life? Whether you're 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old plus. We could all learn something to be a bit better when it comes towards budgeting, when it comes to being a bit more better with our money. And we all have crazy scenarios where we have to spend a ton of money, or crazy scenarios where we didn't spend a couple of dollars and it ended up costing us a boatload of money. And that's just life. But having to be in those situations less as the years go by is a virtue. It's something that you just should be able to take for granted, is that you can now prepare for those emergencies instead of having to be a victim of them. And, it doesn't take very long to get an understanding of the numbers. There's literally so much free information out there that you could literally just take this YouTube video and literally Google how to become a better vendor. How to become better with money. Or what is it that I need to know about money that I could start implementing today so that I could see the successes that I want to see on a more often. And I find, again, having have worked in directly with vendors for a decade now, but also being a part of the financial lifestyle since I started working, or since I started making money at 12 years old, is how do I budget? What is it that you're saving for? Like, what does this money do for you? What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're looking towards when you're achieving this money? And vendors will go on these job sites, and sometimes they're just looking to eat another day, or they're just looking to build a budget to go on the next vacation, or they're just looking to pay off the other job that they took a major loss on because they either messed up or did underbid just to get the job and couldn't satisfy the client needs in a satisfactory way and had to bail on the job and took a loss, or whatever the case may be. You have to get clear on why is it that you're headed out there, and why is it that you're looking for this money, apart from just being a part of the vendor cycle and being in an area where you may get a call once in a while to get the work or get recommendations. You have to have an understanding of what is it that you're looking for when you're going on this work. For me personally, as a vendor, I am a vendor too. I have always been a vendor. I've been selling my time, my energy, my effort, my knowledge, my expertise for decades now. And I have only ever gotten better as I start to slowly increase the way that slowly perfect and become better at the way that I do things in my personal life and in my business life, so that when I go out there and I sell to other clients, I could get an idea first where they are. What is it that they're looking for? How is it that I could focus on this client, get an idea of where they're at, where they need to go, and how do I satisfy that? Not jumping on it, lowering my price, trying to outbid everybody else, promising everything and underperforming everything. That's not the goal as a vendor. The goal as a vendor is to get my own crap together so that when I go out there in the field, I can get my clients or potential clients the information that they need to make informed decisions. Even if that informed decision may be, hey, Shen or this company that you're interviewing for may not be a good fit, but they are a good fit for something else, just not this. And now you have somebody who may call you 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days from now, or may know somebody who's a better fit for the work that you do, that you perform. And here are the couple of mistakes that I realize as vendors. Biting off more than you can chew. It's more often than not, I hear it all the time, that vendors are looking for the next big job. They're always shopping around for the next big job. Guys, there's always going to be, excuse me one second, I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Biting off more than you can chew is a big hindrance towards vendor growth, especially when you know that those jobs, after experience, you take on 2 or 3 years worth of these kinds of jobs where you go on the site, you're not making enough money, and in the time that you spent knocking out these bigger jobs, you could have had 6 or 7 smaller jobs lined up and made more money and spent more time with your family and done some more personal stuff, and maybe budget your books and find more time to focus on perfecting the back end processes of your businesses and studying and going to school and things like that, and leveling up in life, right? Which is just how it works. The bigger jobs do not pay you more buck for buck. A lot of my portfolio is smaller buildings, 10 units and under. I have some outliers that are larger than 50, but the bread and butter is the nuanced level of attention that I could pay attention, the nuanced level of attention that I can give to the smaller clients to help them breathe easier every single day, knowing that their managing agent is available 24/7. And I get paid a premium for that. And sometimes these buildings that I take over that are of the smaller end are paying my premium, what I consider my premium, which is cheaper than what somebody else may bill. But I have a solid case for the reason that I bill. I don't need anything more than what I bill. And even though I could possibly charge extra, and of course I will, not dodge the fact that increases do have to happen eventually in management contracts. But the concern that I have is I'm billing for exactly what I predict my time is going to be allotted per month. If a client for any reason is becoming, and again, I know my vendor portfolio profile is different than having to wait on the next job. Mine is recurring. Mine is a contract that recurs every single month. I get paid, regardless of whether I do work or not. I get it, but the same principles apply. Is that I take care of what I need to take care of, so that when I focus on a client, I'm able to get them the facts. I'm able to say to them straight to their face, this is what I do and here's what I don't do. I'm not run around and babysit your vendor management. You should have a good idea of what your vendors do for you and whether or not they're a good fit for the property that you own or operate, whether it's a board or an individual multifamily or a single family investor. And if you're looking for those vendors, we have those vendors that we can rely on. But we still monitor and ensure that the level of quality and the peace of mind that you're looking for is going to be achieved with the team that either you are putting together, I'm putting together, or that we put together for your property. And I find often that, sometimes people want to put me in a position where I'm offering something more than, where they want something more than what I can offer. And I say, look, like, if that's great, if that's able to be found in the field, I'm happy for you. Like, I want you to go out there and find a company that's able to fit that need. And then, I've been asked to come back to some buildings because they felt like they were going to be serviced by somebody who was more either A, competent, or two, had more facilities or faculty to give them the peace of mind knowing that somebody's always looking at their stuff. Yeah, somebody's always looking at your stuff, but that doesn't mean that, Sally knows Harry and Harry knows Glenn and Glenn knows Ben and Ben knows Shen, and then everybody's talking in that same line of communication, and it gets filtered to the point where it's not even the original message anymore, which is, I'm late on my rent because X, Y, and Z happened, or my door latch it broke off and I need a replacement. All of a sudden it turns into, I need a door replacement. This is not the level of communication that we're looking to achieve for our clients. We're looking to get, within 5 to 10 minutes, a good idea of what's going on. And if we can't gather that information, we're sending somebody out there who's going to get us that information or that level of information, or we go out there ourselves. And it's the same thing for a vendor, is how quickly can you obtain the information based on your knowledge and expertise, so that you could transfer that over to the potential client, so that you could help them quickly get along with their day. Because stuff's always going to happen. There's going to be a leaky faucet or a pipe drain bust that completely floods out the first floor, or more specifically in these kinds of weathers, in this kind of snowstorms that we've been dealing with in January and February of 2026, roof leaks, floods that happen because of pipe burst. These are the kinds of things where you get somebody in there, you stop the bleeding. Now it's starting to make the progress towards identifying where that problem was, and now start dictating how the repairs are going to help them get to where they need to go. Again, I can only speak from experience, because this is what we do on the daily. We see the failure points. We see the weakest links when people come to them, when vendors come to the owners and they're spewing the information and not giving clarity on how this is going to help them. And look, I get it. Sometimes you could be 100% crystal clear and people just look at you like, huh? I don't get it. And that's fine. You have to move them out of that uncertainty where it's like, look, I completely understand that you may not understand what I'm doing, but here's what you're looking for. You're looking to just make sure that you never have to touch this thing until, another scenario brings it up, which is going to be like, 30, 40 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 3 weeks from now, whatever that repair thing is, or whatever that cycle, the life cycle of that is. In real estate, you hope things last for a couple of years. Not everything lasts forever, but, everything has a life expectancy. It's like, look, we're going to give you, the life expectancy that you can expect out of these materials and this labor. We just need to go in there and make sure that what we're doing lines up with your budget, and 2, your expectations. We understand that your property may have some more nuanced needs, such as, really crisp finishing work, or details, or a wallpaper that might have to be replaced all the way around because that specific wallpaper cannot be replaced, that it cannot be bought anymore, or this carpet was installed 3 weeks ago and now it's flooded and it smells like urine, things like this, right? Where you're dealing with somebody's expectancies that would have you go above and beyond your position of getting your scope of work that you're used to done. How is it that vendors can do that? Again, it's setting the expectation. It's knowing your job good enough so that when you go on these job sites, you're able to say those things. This is what I see. This is what I know. And it's totally okay if you don't. It's like, look, I'm going to miss a few things. And if it's something that's really obvious, it's going to be on me. If it's something that we should have talked about, but I'm halfway in it and now I see what's going on, it's either going to be a totally you thing or a totally me thing, or it's something that we can agree that we could split the costs on. And that's the way that I work. Imagine being on the receiving end as a client looking for a service, and you hear something like that. What is that going to do for somebody? It's like, okay, here's somebody who's willing to be accountable for the things that they may not tell me up front. Here's somebody who's also going to be accountable for the things that we both may not know going into a project. And here's somebody who's going to want to share that accountability with me as a homeowner, something where I bought this real estate, this piece of investment as is from the prior owner who done MacGyver repairs and all this kind of nonsense, or may have done professional repairs. And we're going to share the accountability when it comes to those kinds of things. So it's helping to build a better vendor is, you have to layer on a couple of things that'll start compounding into better experiences, better clients, more satisfaction getting, you going on the job, getting those things done, and receiving not only the feedback and the money, of course, the check is really nice, but now you have the peace of mind knowing that you really took care of a client beyond just doing a faucet repair or a roof repair. You really took care of a client by understanding who they are, what they are, where are they, how are they going to get to where they need to go, and how can I help them get there? And what's the easiest way to do that is just, again, it's setting the expectations, it's being good, practicing good and fair cost practices and analytical practices, getting the client a good idea of where they're at and where they need to go. Also setting, again, expectancies and contingencies, and setting expectations for those things. As a vendor myself, helping clients build that out for their vendors is, I mean, it's a task that I'm willing to take because it just makes the management process so much better. Being a vendor, managing other vendors for my clients, so that when those vendors get in front of my client, they're very well educated on how can they be better by me personally. How can they be better so that they can get this client a more competitive bid? So now imagine, now you have 3 or 5 people kind of getting you an idea of what it is that you're looking for. Now you get to have the look and feel of the relationship that you want with the client, with the specific vendor of your choice. Because it's very easy to sniff out, who makes sense and who doesn't, or who's genuine about these kinds of sales processes, these kind of promises, these kinds of things that they could put in writing, contingencies and agreements. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to build better vendors. We're looking to build a better relationship. As just the state of real estate is taking a dramatic turn. There are a lot of different variables that have taken a dramatic turn. Specifically in New York City, Long Island real estate, which are two in and of itself, two very separate markets. However, from a manager's point of view, it all boils down to the same couple of things. Some of the stuff we talked about today, some of the stuff we'll talk about in future videos. But, hit the likes, hit the comments, share your thoughts. I hope, some of this information has been valuable to you guys. We do wish that more vendors would kind of see what is it that they're doing that may not be useful in today's market. Some of the practices and some of the sales processes that vendors have been using, or just some of the things that they think are right but really aren't helping them much build a better business. It's getting ahead of those kinds of things and saying, maybe I'm not doing the things that are necessary to be a better vendor. Maybe the things that I'm thinking about, maybe the things that I'm doing right now may not be the things that help me be a better vendor. If we all start there, if we're all saying, what can I do to be a better vendor, knowing that the things that I'm doing right now are not what I need to be doing to be the better vendor. Imagine those things, what kind of processes or thoughts or feelings come up, so that you can have a better understanding of what is it that you're doing that you right now can be aware of, so that you can you can make a conscious effort when you're doing those things the next time to simply back out of that statement and just say, maybe, hey, look, I didn't mean it like that, or I know I sent out this, but this is what I meant. I want things to be fair. I want things to be an agreement between us. I want things to be such that when you step on this job, or when you step on this work that I'm about to do, this journey with you, you know that you're taken care of. There's some things that I'm just going to be accountable for, and we'll absorb that as the cost of the project. It happens. I may just ask for a couple of dollars in terms of materials and things if things kind of get a little bit out of pocket here. There's some things that you're going to be totally accountable for, and I'll let you know what those things are. And there's stuff that we could just split down the middle. All right, guys, I'm going to log out for today. I think it was a successful run, just videotaping a little bit more and expressing some more of the series and points that I want to get across going forward. And hopefully, if you're a vendor, if you want to sit down, you want to talk, and you want to do some introspective analysis to determine how is it that you could become a better vendor, hit me up in the DMs or drop a comment. We'll be more than happy to share our experiences with you, and be the part of the system that helps improve the rest. All right, guys, Shen logging out with Essential Management. And y'all have a blessed day and continue being better. Bye, guys.